Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing this Brustro Artist Watercolor sketchbook. This is 25% cotton. It is also cold pressed. So it has about 50 pages, that is 25 sheets. So front and back, if you're going to use it, then you get about 50 sides. So this basically I got it free along with Brustro gouache. But if you're going to buy this book individually, then it's going to cost you about $3.99. And this is A5 size. I haven't used their watercolor sketchbook in a while, so I'm excited to try this out and show you guys how it is. "25% cotton is not ideal for beginners. At least for watercolors, I would still recommend you to get 100% cotton. 25% is still fine, but it would be a little difficult to use. I will show you what issues could come with it. So this is basically it tells it is cold pressed, and then it is acid free, and all these other details are written over here, and it's made by Creative Hands. You can use watercolor, tempera, gouache, acrylic, ink and drawing. So there are multiple uses for it, and since it's 200 GSM, watercolor normally you should have 300 GSM minimum if you're a beginner, especially because if you're going to do layering, it becomes really difficult if it is anything below 300. But let's try it out on this paper. So there is a nice color. You can see that this is a very bright white and this is like an off-white, which is a very nice shade when it comes to watercolor paper. I really like this kind of paper, and you can see the tooth on the paper. There's some texture. It's thick. If it is 300 GSM, the sound will be even more stronger, and it has these perforations also over here. So this is ideal if you're going to be doing everyday sketching and you want to turn your pages, you want to just hold it in this way, so it becomes really easy for you to use it for that purpose. So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to try out a couple of watercolors things on it and see if it is good enough to use or if it is not worth buying this. So I'm going to be using these colors by White Nights for doing the watercolor painting, and I'm going to make two quick paintings right now. The first one is going to be a sunset scene, so we will be doing a little bit of wet on wet to figure out if this paper can hold that much of water. So I've got a nice round brush by Princeton Heritage. This is size 16. You can use a flat brush as well. You can use anything else that you are comfortable with and that you have. So I'm just going to add some water. If it is 100% cotton, it will not absorb the water completely. It will still be quite nice and wet. It will stay wet for a really long time. But because it's only 25%, it will actually absorb it much faster, so you can't make a lot of corrections. Alright, so what I'm going to do is we're going to have some water over here, and we're going to just do a mix of different kinds of colors for the sky. So I really like these colors by White Nights. They make it very easy for me to create a lot of different kinds of art, and the colors are so bright and beautiful, so I really like it because of that. We'll add in some yellow right now because we want to create like a sunset scene. It's going to take a while to dry out, and I'm going to add a little bit of red. And maybe a little more of dark blue on the top. Now over here, because we have water, I want to go more with bluish, and then we'll add a little bit of like a yellow or an orange. It's become green because I've got it next to my blue. but that's okay. So you can see there's a lot of water over here, so I can just pick a little bit of tissue. So I use these kitchen tissues, and I can just pick the water out and I can move it around if I wish to. So I picked a little bit of water over here because that was a big puddle, and while this dries, I'm just going to make the sketch for the other illustration that I want to do. This is the most simpler one that I want to create. So in this I'm going to do like a cute cartoon dinosaur, and then we'll use some brush strokes to create some effects of leaves and stuff around it. So I'm doing a very light illustration. And just remove all the excess. I'm going to use slightly smaller size brushes right now, and we'll add in the details. So I want to make a very cute dinosaur. Maybe we'll make it in pink. So far the flow of the colors is fine on this. It's not too bad. Again, I think for beginners it might be a little difficult to get the hang of it, because yes, it doesn't dry as fast as I thought that it would, because that makes it super difficult to make some changes and stuff. That way this is nice, but you can see that the paper is moving, like it's going up and down, which ideally will not happen if you have a 300 GSM sketchbook. So when you're working with this, be a little careful just about that. So now for these, I think a nice purple will be good. You can use baton wet, you can use baton dry, you can use different kind of techniques with your watercolors, and it's not even necessary that you have to layer. You can even use your watercolors flat. There is no set rule that you have to use certain mediums in certain ways. In fact, I would encourage you to like go crazy with your mediums and use it in different ways that you like, and don't get bogged down by what you think should be used, or if, like, you know, people say you have to use it in a certain way, you don't have to do that. Just have fun. Creating some leaves. All of this I'm doing just with a round brush. If you use a bigger round brush, then you get slightly bigger size of leaves. You can basically control it. I like how this is coming out. You can see this is drying out right now. It's still extremely wet. It's going to take a long time to dry out because of the amount of water which was there. But once that's done, we'll just add a little more details to this. And I am going to use probably a micron pen on top of this because I want to add some details. And I really like using that along with my watercolors. So I like how this looks. So I'm going to wait out now and wait for this to dry out. Once it dries out, we'll add some details and we'll see how the final look of this whole illustration is. So my dinosaur has dried out right now. So I'm going to be using this Tombow brush pen, and I'm going to add in some details. You can also use color pencils if you want, or you can use like a sketch pen. You can use any other pen. So I am using like a waterproof pen because in case there is some areas that's not dried, I know it would still kind of like merge with it, but it will not be too bad if it's not waterproof, and if your painting is still dry, then everything will smudge with each other. I'm adding some texture here. I can fill this in with color because it's a waterproof pen. And then I'll just erase all the unnecessary pencil lines. So I made one wet on wet painting and one regular simple one, so that you can have a look and you will understand if this sketchbook will serve your needs, if you are a beginner or if you're an intermediate level, and if this is the kind of book that you're looking for to do your daily sketches. Anything which is A5 size is generally good for your daily practice and not really for finished pieces, because one is the size is too small unless you are planning something that way. In that case also, since you're doing like a final product, if you're going to be selling it, then I would highly recommend you to use like much higher GSM of paper for doing your watercolors. So I'm going to add some details over here meanwhile, and hopefully this will dry by then. On this I will not be using the Tombow. I will use, in fact, probably a color pencil and add in some details. So here we'll probably add in some brick red or like a dark pink. You can also use contrast. You can go with like a yellow, but I want to stick to a similar family. We'll add in a little bit of shadow as well over here. You don't really need to add a shadow because we're not really showing a ground, but it's nice to just create a little bit of details like this. Always wait for your watercolors to completely dry before you try to erase. But of course, if you have painted on top of it, it's very hard to erase the pencil line. So that's not going to be possible. So be a little wary about that. So I've got now color pencil. This is the Indanthrene blue. You can use any blue that you have. I'm just doing very, very basic details. It's still a little wet. I'm not going to add too much of details inside. It's more on like the outside and the horizon line that I wanted to fill. Maybe some lines of waves. It's still wet and I can feel like the paper bulging over here, which is not a fun experience, if I have to say. Like if I turn the page, you can see over here that there's a lot of bulging that happens. One thing is it's not bled through, which is very good. So this bulging will tend to happen if you're using a lot of water, so you can't avoid it even if it's 300 GSM. Generally what happens is when you have a 300 GSM paper, you'll use masking tape, you'll pin it down. So even if this happens, it'll get back to its shape. So I'm going to wait it out till it's completely dry and then let you know if the bulging goes away or it does not. So here you can see it's fully flat, absolutely no bulging because we hardly used water. We did just 2 layers at the most. If I can just add a little more into purple and show you that if I add some more purple, does the page bubble up like this one. So if I'm going to be adding a little bit, nothing really is happening to my paper. It is pretty safe, but wet on wet is a little difficult on this so far. So I'll wait it out and I will show you. Meanwhile, if you're new to this channel, then do consider subscribing to it. There are a lot of art tutorials that I put up and a lot of art supply reviews that I do, so that will help you to understand what kind of art supplies you should get for the type of artist that you are, and you don't have to waste your hard-earned money in buying everything under the sun, and you can just buy exactly what's needed by looking at my reviews. So if you like today's video, then do hit the like button and also leave a comment below. Another few minutes and this should be fully dry so I can give you my final verdict on the bubbling of this paper. So I waited for this to dry. I also closed the book and I kept it for about half an hour to see if the paper goes back to normalcy, and here is how it is. The paper has not gone back to normalcy. You can see there's a little bump still over there, so it's a little soft, this area. So I'm not sure if I can really use this backside of it with multiple layers, probably with a single layer. Like there's a lot of difference with this area versus this one, but overall I think it is nice. The sketchbook is good. The fact that the colors stay real and they pop out is very important for me, and it looks really nice that way. Otherwise in some sketchbooks the colors will just fade away. It'll not be very pleasant to see, so it dries very differently. But in this it does not dry differently, so that way it's quite nice. So I would recommend you to get this if you are probably, even if you're a beginner, then don't do too much of don't add a lot of water. Probably do a little less water and do like simpler stuff. And for your everyday sketchbook practice, this is good. If you want a sketchbook which has like a spiral and a good amount of sheets, and the color of the sheet is also nice. So if all of these things fit into what you're looking for, then this is a good one to get. So I'm going to make a lot of illustrations and sketches in this and try different mixed media. So if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe to it so you can see all the different experiments that I do and all the art tutorials that I put up. Thank you for joining me for today's video. I will see you soon for the next one. Bye bye.